Alright, so we're trying to make these radiators. And these are the directions for the radiators. Um, and they look a little complicated. There's some wooden pieces or cardboard pieces that go inside. There's edge pieces. There's folds right there and there and there that I could not figure out how they're supposed to go to make it look good. That's an extra piece that comes and you add onto the main radiator. And I just had to sort of figure out what was my best thing. So I cobbled something together. It's taken me a couple of weeks to figure this out. And you'll see I don't really have it figured out, but it's going to be okay with some touch-up. So here's my attempt at making these. But you got to look at it with a huge grain of sodium chloride because I'm probably doing it incorrectly. In the end, they look all right. But so first thing I did was fold these pieces up. And there's two pieces. That piece there and that piece there have to be glued down flat and folded onto themselves because that's supposed to be like an oily place. That's going to be on the back when you look up from the trailing edge and you can see onto the bottom sort of part of this clamshell. That's why that's colored like that. So that one made sense to fold that over. And the edge of that fold where my thumb is where the little radiator itself is going to go. So it demarks where that's going to go. And then in the front, there's this thin piece that is going to end up being sort of the front lip of the radiator, which is going to be curved over ever so slightly. So to begin with, and this took a long time to figure this out, you got to put these two together. So I go ahead and put my glue on there, fold them down, and put them together nice and smooth, just like that. Looks good. And I squeeze these pieces shut. This is actually pretty thick. It's folded over on itself, and you want to have this nice and dry. And that piece I'm squishing down is going to have to be curved over, ultimately. So now these are these ribs that go on the outside edges, and they are going to have to fit there really nicely too. Those formers will make it all look pretty good. Now here I'm taking an eraser and my little dabbing round tool, and I'm trying to roll in that curve that's on that front lip just a little bit so it makes it look like it's curved over. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you do want it to look pretty good. And ultimately, that's just a lot of playing around, making sure it's going to fold over. And so this is the main part. Now I start to put in these little radiators. And you make sure one goes in the front, one goes in the back. That one, with sort of the ribs that stick down, little gradations, that one goes in the front. And I think it wouldn't matter, I don't think, which you put it upside down or not. I don't think anyone would notice the difference, but I put it in the way I thought it would go with the frame down on the bottom. And then the little frames going up into the radiator. But anyway, take this and you just put it right along the edge of that fold that you just made of the double-sided paper or on the lip. And you just glue it down, and that's going to be nice and solid, and that's going to give you some structure, which is going to be helpful, ultimately. And then you're going to put the other one on the back side, and just make sure the black part is sticking out. Now, in my case, since I'm going to paint everything, it matters no whit, because I'm going to paint stuff anyway. But it's nice to know that it looks good, and it actually does. It does make it look pretty nice. When they're all done, you look up in there under the wing, you can see them, and they look cool. So that's good. Make sure those are in, and then that piece is that top little fairing. I'm just kind of test fitting it. That's going to go over everything. Ultimately, just testing it to make sure it's going to fit. But you can see it fits right over like that. My son had to help me with that. I couldn't figure out where the heck that went. But he finally looked at it and realized he's good at origami and stuff. So he looked at it and go, yeah, it pops, it goes here. So I'm glad. Thanks, Peter. Anyway, these two little pieces of wood or cardboard go into those former pieces. And there's two of them. They're different sizes, but they'll only fit in one place, which is nice. If you put it on the wrong side, it won't be big enough. Or it'll be too short. So you can't really mess them up. I don't know if this is the sequence of events you're supposed to do, but this is what I did, and this is what sort of worked for me. So I put this piece in, one on either side, and then I just put them in so that they are forming this little curve, so that they're giving that flap some structure. By the way, all those wooden pieces, I had to thin them out quite a bit. I start out with, I think it was 1/16 sheet balsa, which is much too thick. So I had to sand them way down. And in fact, I should have sanded down a little bit more because things get too wide. Probably should be more like 1/32. Or again, if you're using a cereal box, that's probably the best. That in this case, that would be the best because it'd be very thin. Just give it some structure, but it doesn't have to be a thick piece of balsa. Anyway, what I did worked okay. I just sanded them way down, and the grills didn't have to be because they can be nice and structural. They're fine as long as the end is butted up. That's all you see. But these edge pieces have to be kind of thin. So put the other side in the same way. You can see you just match it up and to the shape and squeeze it. And notice this piece has been bent over so that it will make that right angle. All of this stuff was done the same way we always do things. So a straight edge, something to make a little score, and it works fine. So there's the radiator starting to take shape, and you can see I'm trying to figure out what these tabs are going to be doing, and I think they stay on the inside in the front there. They're going to stay on the inside. The back ones, I think I find out later on what I should have done. We'll see what happens. But anyway, this now, notice it's got a bend in it. That was scored a little bit and just slightly cracked, and that fits. You'll see why it fits where it fits. Again, they're sided. One's longer, one's shorter, so that you can't mess them up. And they're going to give you that airfoil shape, that little curve on the bottom of the radiator. And I found out both of the radiators, I needed to cut the radiator pieces down on both sides in order to make this all fit. And that's not, I don't think, my fault, because that doesn't matter how thick the radiator pieces are. That's just the length of them. I think they're long. Unless, again, I have it, nothing in this model has fit poorly. So maybe it's quite possible I got something wrong here, but I had to cut those down by, maybe a 32nd of an inch, a little more, so that these would fit inside and actually be end up with the right outside dimensions and everything. So I put a little glue on the wood radiator pieces, and then I put some glue on the top on that sort of airfoil shape curve, and then you just match up that bend, that kink. You see that line right where you can see on the piece of paper in the back how it has to kind of cant out, have a little crook in there. Works really well. And then you just make sure that you glue everything down, and that's all there is to it. Now, right about here, I'm starting to realize what I should have done with the back tab that's sticking out. That one right there. Because when you do it right, you shouldn't have any naked wood showing. And I think those pieces are supposed to be folded up inside and go on the inside of these ribs. So the way I've done it, I'm just going to fold these pieces over on the outside. And then when you look in from the behind area on this radiator, trailing edge, you're going to see bare naked wood in there. And you're not supposed to. But I couldn't figure out how on earth to make it work based on the drawings. The drawings were, in this case, pretty poor. And you can't tell what's a printed side, what isn't a printed side. It was very difficult. But I'm just starting to figure this out now that I've done one and I'm making the second one, that I think those pieces are supposed to basically be folded inside that rib that we just put on. But they're glued, and I'm not going to take it off again. See, I'm kind of figuring it out right now, going, wait a second, something's not Jake. However, I am just gluing this together and making sure everything is solid, making sure the radiator parts, the screens, are glued to those ribs. I'm squeezing things so that they're all flat, because some of this is doubled over pieces of paper, and so they have to be squished down. But again, now I'm looking at this and I'm going, how is this supposed to go in? So those flaps, little pieces, I think do go on the inside to cover the wood or the cardboard, because those, when you look inside, you'd see the naked cardboard. And with those cut right and put up like that, you won't see that. So that I think that's correct. Because the outside where it's white, that's going to be covered by that top sheath that we put together. But the back part there, I'm just going, wait a second. I do think that piece on either side is supposed to be on the inside of the rib, so that you pull it up and fold it over, and then that would see. I'm just covering the outside. The outside is already blue, so I'm putting a second layer of blue over top of it, which is incorrect. So I'm just realizing that basically right at this point, and but it's too late now. Oh well. So I go ahead and just kept moving. This way it's nice and strong, but I think that's what you're supposed to do, because there's a top piece on it that's a tab that's going to give you a little bit of purchase for gluing, and so I do believe that's what you're supposed to do. But anyway, oh well, we're not going to display this model upside down a lot, so I'm not that worried. Making sure that you squeeze the paper down so that everything is nice and glued and solid, which is important. And because you want it to look like this little rectangular box with angles on it, because otherwise it would look really wonky under there. But yeah, I have a feeling that the front I think I got right, the back I got right. I got some tabs, but those tabs there are, I'm pretty sure, I'm almost positive now, are completely wrong. I think they're supposed to go up and inside and then fold down, and then you see, the inside won't be raw. So anyway, oh well. I live and learn. It's all going to be, as I said, painted anyway. And like I said, I'll keep the model right side up most of the time, so I'm not too worried. I won't hang it from the ceiling because then you can look up and see them. So I'll make sure I don't do that either. Now I'm just testing that sheath that goes over, and it fits pretty well. I have to put some glue on there. I'm a little bit wide. I can't quite clamp it down. So here I'm just sanding the edge of one side so as to make it a little thinner. That's what's nice about using wood, because if you do have to do something like this, it's relatively easy. It's pretty robust. But I get this in here, and this one didn't fit perfectly, but again, it's going to be okay. I'm going to have to be doing lots of filling and touching up and things on this little model anyway, so I'm not that worried about it. But the end result is a radiator that looks kind of complicated. It's got all these little bells and whistles on it. You can see it's kind of where they have it done. It's articulated, or it's fake articulation, but you can see it's not just a piece of molded plastic. It's multiple pieces and layers, and it's kind of cool. So I put some glue on the inside of my wood edges. That seems to be okay. And then I put some glue on that white part, which this piece fits on. I'm not sure why you had to put this on separate. Again, I think it's because it's layering, because it makes it look more complicated. It probably looks very much like the real McCoy, is my guess. I'm not an expert on Me-410 radiators. Me-110 radiators for that. Radiators, let's face it. I don't even know what radiator is. So put that down, made sure it was glued, and then I squeezed the ends so that they were vertical. I squeezed them first, and then I also squeezed them with the tweezers, just to make sure everything is nice and solid. Again, you're going for straight and even and all the rest, and you're going for right angles. And the only bad part about this, like I said, I think even if I'd done it correctly, those front pieces, you can see there's raw wood on the leading edge. I don't know how you're supposed to get rid of that. I don't know. That's why, again, I'm confused a little bit. But anyway, I put those trailing edge pieces down, so I got tabs on there. And there are those pieces that are wood, so I don't know what I'm going to do. I guess just put some poly paper strip over them and paint them, which will be okay. Not a horrible thing to do. And now just go ahead and stick them on. So you glue on the tabs, you glue along those pieces and along the radiators, and fits really well to the wing. And when you fold it, the way it's supposed to be folded, it fits right in the footprint of the place where the radiator is supposed to go. You can see the radiator where I'm going to put it. It's got, oil essentially that's been drawn on there, which is kind of cool. I'm not going to see it, but it's still pretty neat. And this just fits, even with my, mucking up the radiator, fits right there. Glue it on. It's on solid. It looks good. It's straight. I'll adjust some of the edges and again make things look a little bit nicer before it's all said and done. Once I start priming and painting and sanding and all the rest. But again, looking at this thing as an actual paper model, it's got warts, but these, other than not knowing how to put them on, how to make them, they fit really well once they're done. Again, I just wish I knew what I was supposed to do. So that's on me. That's not the model. I just can't figure out the directions. But there's both on, looking pretty good, and it's kind of cool because if you look at it, I'm trying to show pictures here of, like, when you look through the front, you can see the little radiator pieces in there if you look carefully. And you look from the back, you can see the radiators back in there. So had I done this correctly without any wood showing, it would look really slick. So, I guess onwards and upwards.